Hello and welcome to the second week of our Gracious Wife videos. This week we're going to be talking about Chapter 1, Marriage the Bible Way. Now, with this, I'm going to do a little bit of a reading out of the chapter and then discuss my thoughts on it. That way, those who do not have the book will be able to know exactly what we've talked about in the book. Okay? So, if you turn to the 10th page in the book, this is where I'll be reading from. Shouldn't we be thinking of the values of a wife or a husband before we say I do? I believe so. Being a woman of God, I want to try my hardest to focus and be the Christian I'm meant to be. I want to live my life fully focused on the Lord and what He requires of me. With that being said, this means I should work towards being a gracious woman as a wife, a mother, and overall lady. The idea of being a gracious wife really isn't about how my husband views me. It's about my journey and relationship with Christ. It's about fully submitting to God and His plan for my life and for my family. Now, in the book of Genesis, that's where God creates Adam and Eve. And this is where He realized that man should not be alone. So He created Eve. This is where the covenant of marriage was formed. Then if you go to Matthew chapter 7, verse 24, Jesus says, "Anyone who listens to my teaching and obeys me is wise, like a person who builds a house on solid rock." Marriage has to be centered around God because He is above all, and He's greater than anything in this world. Love and marriage were meant to be a gift from the Lord to us. So building our marriage around God and His words will help it stand with the unyielding chaos all around us. Now, I came to the realization that I should be treating my spouse as the extraordinary gift that he is, even over our children. Now, I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I fully believe in the ladder of life, which I'll get to, and I'll explain to that a little bit more later. One thing I realized while reading about marriage and doing the Bible study, I learned that in marriage, it's not about me. It's not about what I want. It's not about Ray Beth, which was really hard to come to terms with because naturally, as anyone, I tend to think about myself. Being selfish is one thing that will definitely destroy the marriage. And as a gracious wife, I should do my utmost to not be selfish, to fight the urges to be selfish. Selfishness isn't something that God designed to be in a marriage. Now, if you go to chapter 1, page 13, we are told not to act out of selfish ambition or vain. We are born with a natural selfish tendency, like I said. Now in Philippians 2:3, my favorite song just came on the radio. Sorry. Okay. Now, if we go to Philippians 2:3, this is what I'll be referring off of. If I was determined to be a full wife of the Spirit of the Lord, I should be asking, what can I do for my husband? Not what can my husband do for me? So, that is one thing. Selfishness will completely destroy it. Marriage was meant to be a lifelong journey filled with triumphs and defeat, which we will all experience, whether they're good or bad. The journey is a mixture of fun times, hard times, emotional and joyful times. and unfortunately painful times. Each season of our marriage helps us deepen the love for one another, and it helps us to grow. It will even help us grow spiritually if we both, husband and wife, Greg and Ray Beth, you and your husband, all focus on God. The times will be even more sweeter. Now, the Lord doesn't say life in marriage is going to be easy. As a matter of fact, He does say something about this in the Bible, in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 28, and it says, "But those who marry will face many troubles in this life, and I will spare you this." The meaning of this verse is that God sees the ups and downs that we're supposed to be expecting. But if we turn to Him, He will spare us. He will help us through those times. He does not promise these problems won't happen. He does not say they will magically disappear. But if we have faith in God, He will see us through those problems. Now, before saying those precious vows and those promises to my soon-to-be spouse, I should have valued marriage. I didn't. Did you? I mean, seriously, think about it. I took for granted the vows in the beginning. When things got rough and got hard, we say for better, for worse. For the better times, I'm all joyful, loving, I can't stop when it comes to praising the Lord for the good that Greg has done in our marriage. But I did not hesitate to start complaining to the Lord about when Greg fell off the rocker. You know, when he was made these decisions that I should have been part of, or he's done whatever it was that he did. The first place I started when I found myself facing a rough time was in prayer. I have always been one of the type that had my BFF, and I would go to her and automatically start complaining about whatever it was that I was upset about. That's not the way that it should be. We should be getting down on our hands and knees and asking God to help us. We need to stay vigilant when it comes to our marriage, because the enemy is always out to destroy what God created. God created marriage. He created man, He created woman. He's out to destroy all three. But the best way to defend our marriages against spiritual attacks is God. Of course, He can build, strengthen, empower, and protect our marriages. The enemy wants to undermine us, weaken us, and destroy us. But with God at the center, he's not going to succeed. So if we go to page 17, there are discussion questions at the end of the chapter. And I'm going to read them here on the video and then repost them below. You, the viewer, I would like to see you in the comments below. Add your thoughts with these questions pertaining to this chapter today. Question number 1. I mentioned where the Bible talked about man uniting with his wife and they become one flesh. What do you think it means by one flesh? Question 2, Would you say your marriage reflects a biblical marriage? If not, what is something you can do to help your marriage better reflect a biblical marriage? Question 3. What are your goals for your marriage? Are they in line with God's views? If not, what can you do to change this? Then the last question. What do you think you need to do as a couple or individually to get where you are to where you would like to be? So those are the 4 questions. And the wrap up for this week's video. However, I want to say that The Gracious Wife, through this series, as of right now on October, I think it's 29th, or no, 30th. Wow, my goodness, I need a calendar. Anyway, I will be giving away a few copies of these, of The Gracious Wife, throughout the video series to one of you viewers. I will randomly choose from each comment on each video to give a book to. So if you would like a chance to win The Gracious Wife, answer the discussion questions below, and at the end I will put everybody's name into a hat and we will draw the winner. Depending on how many comments we'll get, we'll say how many copies I will be giving away. Okay? It was great to have you with me, and I will see you next week. God bless.